So what we're going to do today is we are going to pull the valve cover and adjust the valves. And we're going to also replace the valve cover gasket, of course, because it is leaking. And I mentioned in an earlier video about how to replace this, and the other light was broke and it looked like it had been this was bent up just a little bit and I had to bend it back down, but I didn't notice any other damage on the front. Well, this is actually pushed in a little bit. I just noticed it when I was looking at it. Well, last video, gotta backtrack. Last video I mentioned I was putting the, kind of left off that I was putting the hood pull on. So I got that installed. And because that hasn't been installed, I haven't been completely latching the hood down. Well, after I got that installed, I latched the hood down. When I just came out now, I noticed with the hood completely latched, I could tell that this bezel is in a little bit. So this is actually pushed in just a little bit. You can see it a little bit. If you look right here, see this little tab right here? And if you come back over here, you don't see it. And so what has happened is it got hit and it's done that just a little bit. So probably about, I'm gonna guess about right here where it's a little bit kinked, it's gotten pushed in. So what we'll probably do, we're not gonna do it right now, but we'll wrap around this and get a come along and pull out on this core support and bring it back out where it should be. So easy fix. Don't need to replace any parts, just straighten it out. And so anyway, back to our task today. So we're gonna have to do something with some of this linkage. We can leave most of it up on here. What we'll need to take off though is the let's see, we'll need to undo the cruise control right here. All I'm going to do to get these off is take two flathead screwdrivers, get on both sides of these little sockets and pop them off, and we'll pop this one off. Then it looks like the next best, or the next one to go, will probably be, let's see, this linkage can stay. Let's see, that would actually slip out of there. Oh yeah, that'll slip out. So we can pull this key out here, let this linkage slip out. Then I think the only one, so we'd undo here and we'll undo here, and we can leave this stuff and let it come off with the valve cover. We'll need to unplug this wire here, and we will need to undo this cable that goes down to the transmission. So we'll undo this one, undo this one, undo this one, pull this out and let this shaft slide out, and we'll kind of leave all this stuff with the valve cover. Now the bracket itself, yeah, it looks like it all attaches to the valve cover, so we'll just leave all that attached. There's no reason to undo it. And then we'll undo, we got a nut there, a nut here, a nut here, and a nut there. So it's like 4 nuts, and it'll come off. We may need to take the air cleaner lid off just a, we'll see. I think we can get it off without doing that. And we'll take this PCV hose off. So let me get started on those, and we'll continue from there. I don't know if I can do this one-handed, but I'll try. So I'm going to take the flathead screwdrivers. Yeah, I think it's going to be just about impossible to do one-handed, but we'll try. Get them in there. bring my tripod out here. Oh, we almost got it. Something hard to do one-handed. Y'all see that? I hope y'all did. This one's a little rusty, so this one may not be as easy. This one was actually froze up, and I had to free it up, so it may not pop off too easy. Let's get a wider flathead. This one is not very freed up, so I think what we're going to do for this one is just make this easier. Pull that little clip out and just undo that right there. Then I just squeezed these tabs and pull this back, and see that cable's now. See this one, it's still kind of froze up. Now it is. See, it's just barely moving. So that one would have been hard to pop out. What we can do now that it's off, we can turn it upside down. We can really get some lubricant in there and get it freed up. All I did was I pulled this little C-clip off and slip that shaft off. So now we've got this little clip here. Pulled that off. Throttle shaft comes right out. It's actually kind of in the way. So we'll see once we pull the valve cover off. We'll see if we can get this thing out of here without undoing much. We may have to pull one of these injector return lines off to get it done. But we won't know that until we start pulling the valve cover off. Everything's loosened up, so we were able to do it without taking too much stuff off, you know. This right here needs to come off. Oh, those little connectors are very brittle. That plug's about gone. Alright, so that's off. Now we can take those, I think they're 14mm nuts off. Alright. Pulled that return line off. It was just easier to, instead of trying to get it all around this linkage. Leaf back here. Kind of hit the air cleaner housing, but I think we are making progress. We've got a wire up here in the front. Injector return line. And what is holding us up now? Oh, this linkage is holding us up. we'll go ahead and pull that out of there. Probably should have just undone this clip. Would have been easier. But we got this out of here. Oh, it popped off anyway. Well, and we're held up at the back. Hard these return lines, and it's off. So let's take a look at what we see here. And I like what I see. I didn't know what I was going to see when I opened this engine up. So here's what we got. I cannot pick up any slack on this chain. It's very good. The cam, all the journals look really good. And I don't see any sludge buildup. Of course, it's dark, it's black, has to be expected, it's a diesel, but no sludge buildup. I actually am surprised at the cleanness of this engine. I did not expect it to be this clean. It's not bad at all. You know, it's definitely got some miles on it, but not bad. Get that leaf out. And underside of the valve cover, not sludgy. We got no chain wear in the cover. I'm impressed. I did not expect it to look that good. I guess I was expecting the worst. So what we're going to do now, I'm going to try to make things a little bit easier and adjust. So you rotate the engine. It doesn't look like I can really adjust any of the valves right now. When one of the valves, or when the camshaft is pointing straight up, so that one's almost straight up, but when it's pointing straight up, you can adjust that valve. You want to adjust it opposite of the lobe. So when a lobe's pointing straight up, you can adjust that valve. So we're going to need to rotate it a little bit. What I'm going to try to do, instead of getting up under it, I'm going to do the trick that they say not to do, and that's to turn it from the power steering pump, or attempt to turn it. We may not be able to, but we'll see. What you don't want to do, you don't want to turn it by the camshaft sprocket there, but we'll try turning it here. If we can't, we'll have to get up under it and put a wrench on it. But let me get a wrench put on it, and we'll see if we can get it to where some of these line up. It looks like, I don't know if we're going to get it where, at least if that one's lined up, I don't think any others will be lined up. But we may get it where we can adjust a few at a time. But since I haven't done this before, you may have to do them one at a time. Rotate, adjust, rotate, adjust. So I'll show y'all just a little bit of this, and I'm not going to show y'all the whole thing, but what we've got, and I printed this out, and so this shows exhaust intake, intake, exhaust, exhaust intake, intake, exhaust, exhaust intake. So that's all the valves. And then beside them I wrote the what the valve lash should be. So we've got 12 thousandths, 4 thousandths, 4 thousandths, 12 thousandths. So I just, to make things easier, I just wrote the values. So all I've got to do now is, I'm on number 2, I'm on that second valve right there. I look over here, okay, 4 thousandths. And so I've got my feeler gauges here. I've got a brand new set of feeler gauges, and I've misplaced them. But I've got 2 old sets. They don't look the prettiest, but they're still in good shape. I can barely read the 4 thousandths on that one, and we got 12 thousandths on this one. So that's the 2 feeler gauges we'll use. This other set does not have a 4 thousandths. It doesn't go that low. It's got a 12 thousandths, so if I need, they're a little longer and they've got a bend in them. If I need one like that to fit in there, I can use this 12 thousandths. So what we're going to do to get to these nuts easier, the bottom nut, and I'll show y'all. So there's a top nut and a bottom nut. If you can look, I've got this wrench on the bottom nut right there. They're 14 millimeter. I just used a 9/16 because to get in here, well, you need a bent wrench. I think the top one I can get to with a straight wrench, but I had this very cheap, made in China, I don't know where it came from, probably came in a garage sale or something, you know, in a bucket of wrenches or something. And it's so sorry, I just put it in the vise and hit it with a big hammer and was able to bend it. But you know, if you don't have a real cheapie like this, you might have to do some heat to bend it. But this one bent without heat, so now I can get in there. The bottom nut is the tightener, and the top is the adjuster. So you adjust the top one and then snug up the bottom one. So what we're going to do is we'll loosen that off. We'll check the valve clearance first. This one should be 4 thousandths. So we'll take our 4 thousandths feeler gauge, which is right there. 4 thousandths is not much at all. And we will try to get that in there. And I think what I might do is actually just use the 12 thousandths off the other one, so I can just leave this. These are kind of stiff. I can probably loosen that and free them up a little bit, and I cannot get that 12 thousandths in there. So what I'm trying to do is, on top of that nut, between the nut and the rocker arm, you want to be able to get this feeler gauge, and I cannot. It's too tight, and that 4 thousandths is thin. So we're gonna have to back off on this one, and we'll back it off and get it where we can get that feeler gauge in there.